Kia ora and welcome back to Wellywood Wargaming. My name's Damon and we are here to talk shit about Necromunda. In this episode, of course, we're heading towards the end of the gang guides that I'm doing. And I thought it would be time to do the pasty, sickly Dutchmen themselves, House Van Saar. So the House of Artifice we're going to be talking about today. To anyone unfamiliar with House Van Saar, who are they? Why are they so pasty? Why are they so fragile and weakly? Well, to cut a long story short, a Dutchman by the name of Van Saar, I think that was his name anyway, probably Bob to his mates, was flying through space with a huge advanced ship with a load of rare technology and something called the STC, which was a piece of sort of AI, I suppose. And they basically got lost in the warp, and then the ship is presumed to have crash landed on the planet Necromunda hundreds of years later. And the STC remained intact, or somewhat intact. Now, the people of Necromunda, the scavenging people out in the wastes, obviously, looted the ship as it crashed and found and discovered the STC, but didn't really realize that it was broken to the point where it was irradiating them and making them all incredibly sick. However, this STC, this AI, they realized pretty quickly that they were able to harness its power to create things, to help them build things, be it weapons, all sorts of stuff, starships, whatever. And that's where we've currently got Van Saar in Necromunda. So, eons later, House Van Saar still have this secret AI sort of technology called the STC, and they hide it deep underground, locked away, and it is their biggest secret, basically. Each gang seems to have their own secret, and that's the Van Saar secret. So that's Van Saar. Where do they fit in terms of Necromunda and how they play? Of course, they're one of the major 6 houses. They're not a noble house, they're one of the gang houses, but they're certainly one of the richest. They supply all the weapons and armor to Uphive and the military and stuff. Because of their forbidden technology, they're able to make weapons of a higher quality than anyone else as well. In terms of where they sit in the game, Van Saar are very much, if you're familiar with 40k, they're very much the Tau of Necromunda, I suppose. And he might disagree with me with that, but they are the absolute shooty boys of Necromunda. Of course, we just did a video on squats, and they are the shooty boys in some ways, but these guys are the finesse shooty boys, and they are generally, it's the stats that really stand out for Van Saar. They're very, very good at shooting, and they're very, very accurate because they have high ballistic skill throughout. In terms of tiering, where are Van Saar? Well, they used to be right at the very top without being touched by anyone. However, since the gang books have come out, all the House of books anyway, I feel that they have been sort of balanced somewhat. Of course, House Goliath got a lot stronger. I would say they're right up there, in fact, probably overtaking Van Saar now. House Dalak are particularly strong. House Escher are particularly strong. They're all good now. In fact, all of the houses they've done really well. Games Workshop, hats off to you. You've done really well for sort of not balancing things because it's not a balanced game, but at least not giving Van Saar extra stuff to make them even better, because even though it feels like when you get your hands on a copy of a House of Artifice, it does feel like there's nothing that exciting about Van Saar's book and how they were developed. However, I do feel that they didn't need a lot because they were already so strong. So, in answer to that question, in terms of tiering, they're right at the top there. I would say the only gang that's really on paper ahead of them would maybe be Goliath, just because you can min-max the shit out of them using gene smithing and stuff. However, in the right hands, Van Saar are very, very hard to beat indeed. Right, so in terms of the strengths and weaknesses of House Van Saar, the main one is obviously that they've got high ballistic skill, so they have high ballistic skill throughout the gang. Even the Juves can shoot accurately, or averagely, which is amazing for a Juve. They're very slow, so that's one of their weaknesses. They have quite low initiative as well, so that's another weakness. They're also incredibly expensive, so in terms of credit cost, they're not quite as expensive as your squat Ironhead prospectors, but they are very expensive at base cost, and also their equipment is very expensive too. So generally speaking, you're going to be running quite small crews, and you're going to be bottling out of games fairly often with your small crews, generally. So those are all the weaknesses. In terms of the other strengths, I suppose, I'm just kind of skipping ahead a little bit here. They have access to something called Cybertechnica, which isn't the best mechanic for a house gang. I'd say it's actually the worst or the weakest. It's fun though, and it's fluffy and it's cool to use. but it's certainly not as potent as gene smithing or chem alchemy or the faith dice for House Cawdor. It is the weakest of the bunch, I would say. But it is interesting, and you can give your gang quite a bit of flavour with that as well. Other than that, that's really where they would sit, I suppose. In terms of are they sort of beginner friendly as a gang? Yeah, I would say they are. However, you're going to win games even if you're a new player. You're going to win games just with the amount of firepower that you can put out. However, they are quite unforgiving to play in a campaign because of the expensive credit cost of your fighters and their equipment. It's quite hard to replace them. So if someone dies early on in a campaign, heaven forbid your leader, it's very, very hard to get the credits to be able to replace them again. So that's worth bearing in mind. So they're not necessarily a beginner-friendly gang in that sense. Perhaps playing something like Orlok or Goliath would be more friendly for beginners, I suppose. But yeah, Van Saar are really interesting. I actually played them as my first gang in the new version of Necromunda. So before we had the house books, we had the basic sort of Gangs of the Underhive books, and they were the first gang that I played in a campaign, I believe. Now, I didn't really know much about power back then. I didn't really play the game thinking I'm just going to absolutely break the system, but I did completely break the game and bring a champion with a multi-melter and a dispenser to a campaign, and he just ran riot, and it was disgusting, and I didn't make any friends, and none of my players enjoyed playing Necromunda. I'm surprised actually some of them came back after that. But that was when Van Saar were really the best gang in the game by far. Like I said, the other gangs have kind of caught up a little bit now, and any gang in the right hands can be good. So it's very difficult to put a quantity on any gang, because it really does depend on your builds, and it really does depend on who's using it, whether you're playing for fun, whether you're playing competitively. Again, I'll reiterate, playing competitively in Necromunda doesn't really suit the game, if you ask me. So always play for fun, always play for fluff if you can, especially if you're new to the game, because you won't make many friends that way. So we're going to go ahead and get into the overall gang stats for all the fighters. I'm going to talk about those as we work our way through this guide. So House Van Saar, in terms of their fighter types, they have just about as many fighter types as most of the other houses now. They have their own prospects now as well, which I hate to talk about because I hate them so much, but I'm going to have to talk about them and speak from a neutral perspective on this, because that's a position I'm in. But I hope you appreciate how hard it is to not be sick while I'm talking about them. But first up, we're going to talk about the Van Saar Prime. Now, of course, this is your leader. Sounds like Optimus Prime, I suppose, and he kind of is in some ways. He's 130 credits, so he's quite expensive for a leader. However, he's got very good stats, and all of your fighters in the Van Saar list come with an armoured body glove, which is a 6+ save, basically, that can stack with armour. So if you stack that with mesh armour, you get a 4+ save. So another thing that I should have mentioned, obviously, with strengths is the fact that they have better armour than most. Just by giving them flak or mesh armour on top of that armoured undersuit, you've already got better armour than most fighters, and that cost is baked into their credit value as well. So there you go. So bear that in mind when you look at the prices of these. They're still quite expensive, but it's extra armour as well. So your Van Saar Prime has got a movement of 4, so they are quite slow across the board, pun intended there. And that isn't much of a problem because you are a firing platform. They're a gunline gang. They just stand and shoot. Every now and then you do need to move, and movement 4 can be quite frustrating if you want to go up and down dense terrain, etc. Stairs, platform, la-di-da. Their weapon skill is 4, so for a leader that's incredibly low. That's just average. It's the same as an Underhive Scummer, in fact. However, you're not getting them to fight people in close combat, you're getting them to shoot. And of course, their ballistic skill is a 2+, which is insanely good. It's the best in the game. You can't get better than that. There you go. The strength and toughness are 3s, and they have 2 wounds, of course, like any leader. Their initiative is a 5+, so pretty terrible again, the same as the squat, in fact. So the same movement and initiative as a squat. But however, much better ballistic skill, not so good weapon skill. They've got 2 attacks though, which is still it's decent, you know. So these guys can fight if they really need to, but it's not going to be your number 1 option on a leader. In terms of their mental stats though, they have fantastic mental stats. They've got a leadership of 4, a cool of 5, a willpower of 5, and an intelligence of 4, which is insanely good. However, it's one of those stats you don't really use that much, same as leadership really. Now, of course, they get your gang hierarchy leader special rule. They've got group activation 2, and they've got tools of the trade. I'm not going to explain what those are because you probably know this already. And in terms of their equipment, they have no limitations to what type of equipment they can take. So they can take heavy weapons as well, which is fairly disgusting when I read out which heavy weapons Van Saar get access to. But in terms of the skill access for Van Saar, and this is for the leader, it's actually the same throughout the gang mostly, but they get access to leadership, of course. So Iron Will, definitely another skill that I would recommend on a small numbered gang. However, you do get shooting as a primary, and you do get savant as a primary. So shooting, arguably one of the best skill sets in the game, particularly for Van Saar, because it just gels so well with their playing style. But you've also got savant, which is excellent for campaign play. Skills like munitioneer, skills like, well, there's all sorts in there. You've got fixer as well to get some extra money. But that's that basically. So the skill access is really, really good throughout the gang. In terms of the weapons and equipment, for basic weapons, we've got las guns. Now you can mastercraft those for 5 credits, which is quite cool. And you can add focusing crystals to any las weapon in a Van Saar list. Focusing crystals basically make them higher AP, but at the cost of being unstable. It's a bit of a toss-up, that one. Yeah, so las guns are your sort of most basic staple weapon in a Van Saar list. You're going to probably take a few of these, but maybe not on your leader. The next one is the las carbine. The las carbine is effectively a las auto gun. It's pretty much got the same stats too. And those are 20 credits. You can mastercraft those, focusing crystal on those too. And the last basic weapon is the suppression laser, which is essentially a laser version of a shotgun. So it has 2 types. It's got a scatter and a solid round. So basically, you get the idea here. Van Saar are an energy weapon-based gang. They do not have any solid round weapons at all. So they're kind of the polar opposite of Orlocks in a lot of ways. However, Orlocks do get access to things like plasma guns, unfortunately. But there you go. In terms of pistols, what's really weird here in the actual list of the book is you've got a las pistol melter gun listed in the pistols section. These should probably be put into the special weapons section. I'm not sure if they've errated that or not, but at the moment they're a pistol. So this is a las pistol and melter gun. So you heard that right. It's a combi weapon with a full melter gun and a las pistol attached to it, which is quite interesting. It's not a las gun and a melter gun. It's a las pistol and a melter gun. That's 130 credits and actually not bad for the cost. You also got a las pistol plasma gun, or we refer to these in the hobby as las plas, and you do get these on the sprue. You also get the melter gun las on the sprue as well in your gang box. So there you go, 2 options you've got already out of the box. You've also got access to hand flamers, which I find a bit weird and kind of offensive, to be honest, on Van Saar, because they're not energy weapons and they just kind of, well, I'll tell you why they're kind of broken in a minute. The hand flamers are just too good on a certain type of Van Saar fighter. You've then got las pistols that you can mastercraft and give them focusing crystals as well. And of course you've got your plasma pistol too, which is excellent weapon for 50 credits there. In terms of special weapons, you've got your flamer, your grav gun, which I really like. It's 120 credits. I really like grav weapons in general. I'm using a grav cannon in the upcoming campaign, so watch out for that because it's particularly nasty. I've then got melter guns for 135 credits, plasma guns for 100, and rad guns, which are unique to House Van Saar. A rad gun is a template weapon, which is only 2 strength, I believe, but causes rad phage, which is something we're going to talk about in a bit. But they're not particularly dangerous, but they are interesting. I think for the cost, they're not really worth it though. Here's where things get funny. So we've got heavy weapon choices here. We've got 4 choices for the heavy weapons for the leader. That is las cannons for 155 credits. If you want to kill something, use a las cannon. Multi-melters, which are even worse. Like I said, I had a multi-melter champion with a dispenser running around just killing everything he shot at. Multi-melters, it's worth mentioning, they do actually have a template, which makes them even more terrifying, but they're 180 credits. You've also got plasma cannons for 130 credits, which are actually excellent for the price. 130 credits is really good. And you've got rad cannons as well, which is a template version of a, sorry, not a template version, but a blast template version of a rad gun, but longer distance. It's quite good, but for 130 credits, it's not great. In terms of close combat weapons, of course, this guy's not going to be doing much close combat, but if you find yourself in close combat, the thing that will help you out the most is probably your Histra pattern energy shield, and that energy shield is basically the things that you get in the box, the big blue see-through plastic shields. Now they're 50 credits, and they're quite good, but they're not amazing. I think they're kind of expensive for what they do, but they're nice and fun and fluffy, and they'll add to your saving throws as well in close combat and shooting. and they're also a close combat weapon as well. You've also got power knives, servo claws, shock battens and shock staves. So you shock batten and shock stave there, of course, trying to keep your leader out of combat really with versatile on the shock stave anyway. For war gear we get the same sort of grenades that you'd get on most other gangs, except they do get plasma grenades and rad grenades. And rad grenades I quite like. For 25 credits they're not too bad. Rad phase is quite annoying. So there you go. In terms of armor, we've got light carapace armor. So if you get that light carapace armor and you put it over the armored body glove, you've essentially got a 3+ save there, which is nice. However, it's 80 credits to do that. You've got flak armor and mesh armor as well. And you've got all 3 field armor types there out of the gate for your leader, which is pretty tasty too. So you could have a displacer field if you wanted to. I like those a lot, quite funny. Personal equipment, same as any other house really, except you have got grav chutes and photo goggles, stuff like that as well. Same with your weapon accessories. You've got your hotshot las gun and las pistol packs. You've also got infra sights, las projectors, mono sights, suspensors and telescopic sights. You've also got access to 0 to 3 cyberarachnids, which are the pet for Van Saar, and arguably the best pet in the game as well. So that is your leader. We're going to move on to the champions now. So moving on to the Van Saar champions now, there are 2 types, of course. There is a super champion, or I like to call a super champion, and there is a regular champion. The super champion isn't quite as super as other super champions. It's no Stimmer, it's no Death Maiden, it's no Nactgul, but it's interesting. But first off, we're going to do the regular champion. Now this is just your run-of-the-mill Van Saar shooty dude, and he's basically your leader, but with slightly worse stats generally. So he's got a movement of 4, weapon skill of 4, the same ballistic skill, same strength, same toughness. 2 wounds, initiative 4, so better initiative actually than your leader. Maybe he's younger. He's also got attacks only 1 as well, so definitely no close combat demon. But again, if you're playing Van Saar, then you're not playing it for that. Leadership 5, cool 6, willpower 6, intelligence of 5, so slightly lower mental stats there, but still pretty good. And he's of course got tools of the trade, group activation 1, and he's got the same skill access actually, so shooting and savant being the primary skill access there. No leadership, of course, that's your leader that gets that as a primary, but that's a secondary for your champion. In terms of equipment, you've actually got exactly the same stuff, generally speaking, except for the field armor. You've only got conversion fields, you can't take displacer or refractor fields there. But everything else is more or less the same. You've got your las cannon, your multi-melter, all of that stuff, and the same stuff otherwise, but you've only got 0 to 2 arachne spider thingies, pets, which is already 5 that you can possibly have in your gang there. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. So your Van Saar sort of basic champion is someone you're going to want as just a shooter, straight up shooter. He doesn't really do anything else. I mean, this is the thing about Van Saar, and it's hard to get excited about it when I talk about it, is they're very one-dimensional. They shoot stuff, and that's all they really do. They haven't got any other styles of play, and that can be a bit boring at times, I think, and it's certainly boring to play against. So just bear that in mind. Your champion is more or less the same as your leader. Both of them can do heavy weapons, special weapons and basic weapons very well. They're both very good at shooting, and they're both going to fulfill actually a similar role generally, with the same skill access of course. So moving on to your Van Saar Archaeotek. Now this is your super champion. However, like I said, he's not too super. He's 125 credits, which is again quite expensive for a champion. It's nearly as expensive as your leader actually, but remember they do have that baked in undersuit as well. Now his stats are movement 4, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2. In fact, his stats are throughout pretty much the same as your champion as above. However, this guy has got 2 attacks instead of 1 attack, but a lower initiative of 5 up. Pretty much the same mental stats though as well. He's got tools of the trade, and he's a champion obviously, so you know he's got that 6-inch bubble of cool checks and stuff. And he's also got a special rule called Master of Cybertechnica. Now Cybertechnica is your unique mechanic for Van Saar, so what this rule means is that he, the Archaeotek here, gets access to Cybertechnica at half price, rounded up to the nearest 5 credits, which is really good and actually makes Cybertechnica worth taking. To be honest, you're not really going to take it on other fighters that much, but this guy, 100% you're going to take it. In addition, he may choose one alpha level of Cybertechnica to be equipped with when they are added to the gang. So not only do you get a free skill, you also get a free piece of Cybertechnica, I keep saying Cybertechnica as well, which is really cool. So remember, for 125 credits, that's not too bad getting a free piece of alpha as well. But we're going to go into the specifics of how the alpha, omega, and whatever the other one's called in a jiffy. In terms of skills, though, this guy's got slightly different skill axis. He's got the unique skill set for Van Saar, which are tech skills. Now, I believe back in old Necromunda, Van Saar did still have techno skills, and they were really good. They were some of the best skills in the game. However, in this iteration of Necromunda, tech skills are garbage, and you're probably never going to use them. So I'm just telling you now. I will read them out later just to sort of tell you what I mean, but they're not great. So he's got shooting. Shooting is a secondary. So they've got tech as a primary, and they've got savant as a primary. So they've still got that access to the savant there as well. And the unique thing about this guy as well is the fact that he's got very different equipment loadouts that you can give him with some quite unique weapons. In terms of pistols, he can't have any basic weapons. In terms of pistols, we've got the las sub carbine, the plasma pistol, and a las pistol. That's it. And he's got a rad beamer for 70 credits, which is an interesting weapon. We're going to talk about that in a bit. 70 credits is not too bad either. It's an interesting weapon. I quite like rad weapons. They're quite cool. We can also have digilasers, which are really great. So digilasers gives you a strength 1 attack in close combat, and you can have 10 of them, I believe. Now on this guy, you can have 0 to 3, and they're 25 credits each. Just gives you an extra attack in close combat, pretty much. It's quite cool. You also got power knives, servo claws, and spider rigs. So the spider rig is 80 credits, and it gives you quite a bit more close combat potential there as well. It's quite nice, but again, I'll explain that later on. You got the same access to grenades as every other fighter in the game, pretty much, but you can have light carapace armor on this guy too. All 3 field armor types are available to this guy. And the same personal equipment and weapon accessories are available to this guy as well. He also gets 0 to 3 cyber arachnids. So if you were running 2 champions and a leader, you can have 6, 7, 8 cyber arachnids if you really wanted to. You're not going to do that though, because you're a nice person, I hope. So that is your champions. We're going to then move on to the thing that I really don't want to talk about, but I have to, because I wouldn't be doing my responsibility to you guys if I didn't talk about it, but I have to talk about it. So yeah, I'll be back shortly. All right, so Van Saar prospects and Juves now. Again, I said I didn't want to talk about it, but I have to. I owe you this much. But I fucking hate these guys. These are Neotechs. So these are the prospects. They're 70 credits, and they are little bitches on surfboards or hoverboards. I used to like hoverboards. I thought they were cool in Back to the Future 2 or whichever film it was, but these guys have fucking ruined it for me. I just hate them. I hate the look of them. I hate the entire fluff of them. I think they're a completely bullshit element of Van Saar, but I'll let you I'll let you make your own opinion, because my opinion matters not. It really doesn't. But here you go. This is the Van Saar prospect of the surfboard dickhead. Now, he's got a movement of 5, but that's kind of irrelevant because he's on a surfboard, and you'll see what that does shortly. He's got a weapon skill of 5, so not very good in close combat. But remember, these are prospects. However, they got a ballistic skill of 4, which is average, not too bad. Strength, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 4, attacks 1, and they've got fairly shit mental stats here. So we've got leadership of 9, a cool of 8, willpower of 9, and intelligence of 7. I love the fact that they've got low willpower, because I like to send them insane with certain tactics cards in games as well. They've got tools of the trade, which is interesting, and they've got the prospect fighter rule as well. In terms of the, they've got hot-headed, which is a nice rule, which means that if they die next to somebody, no one cares. And they're a fast learner, so they can level up a bit easier, or a bit cheaper anyway. In terms of their skill access, when they do get it, they get agility as a primary, which is interesting. Agility skills are very good. That's the only primary that they get there as well. Not going to bother talking about secondaries there, but it's shooting and savant. Now, they've got a limited amount of equipment that they can take because they're on riding surfboards. They've got las guns that they can take. Now, las guns are 10 credits, and these guys with las guns are a real pain in the ass, because that 18-inch short range with +1 to hit suddenly makes them quite reliable. They're hitting at 3s. They're hitting on 3s, and they're very, 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 very maneuverable, these guys. So Lasguns are a pain in the arse on these guys, to be honest. For 80 credits with a lasgun, it's not too bad. The real bone of contention for me though is they get access to hand flamers. Now, when you put a hand flamer on a very fast moving platform that can go up and down levels, I'll explain it again what the surfboard does shortly, but when you put a hand flamer on this guy, it makes them kind of broken. It's really annoying. They can get to everywhere with that hand flamer, and hand flamers are so disruptive and so good in this game that it just feels super cheesy. So just don't do that. You've also got las pistols, las sub-carbines, and plasma pistols too. Histra pattern energy shields, which is kind of interesting. They're 50 credits, of course, to sort of keep this guy alive a bit more. And you've got power knives and shock staves again, which I wouldn't really bother with close combat weapons on these guys. Photon flash grenades for 15 credits, which is very annoying for these guys. Again, I think the photon flash grenades are a real pick on this actually. And plasma grenades as well, which is 65 credits and quite likely to kill yourself because they are, what's the word? They blow up basically. You've also got rad grenades, which are kind of cool. Flak armor, mesh armor, and a couple of equipment and personal accessories there as well. But yeah, they're equipped with an armored undersuit and a surfboard. But we're going to get into what the surfboards do shortly. What's the surf? It's not actually a surfboard. It's called a grav cutter. So there you go. It's still whack though. Van Saar Tech actually is your ganger. This guy is 65 credits, so 65 credits for a ganger is very expensive. So further on talking about how expensive this gang is, of course remember they do get that free armor, but it's not worth 15 credits on top of a regular ganger really. However, they've got better ballistic skill of 3 up. They've only got movement 4 and they've got an initiative of 5 as well, so okay to average mental stats there. But these guys can be promoted. You can have a specialist, and that specialist does get access to heavy weapons, which is kind of disgusting too. Similar to the Orlok gang, I believe. So there you go. In terms of their, of course, their skill access is exactly the same as your leaders and champs. So they get shooting and savant for your specialists, and they can get pretty much most of the weapons that you're going to get on your leaders and your champs in terms of the special weapons, your basic weapons as well. Of course, they don't get energy shields. They don't get access to. Sorry, they do get energy shields. They don't get energy fields. Is what I meant to say. Other than that, they get pretty much the same stuff. And for heavy weapons, the only heavy weapon they're missing out on is the las cannon, which is not really a problem when you've got multi-melters and plasma cannons and rad cannons. But there you go. So that's your ganger. To be honest, your gangers, they're good, but the next thing is your Juve, and this is your sub-tech. And this is where you can actually start making Van Saar lists a little bit more competitive, if you ask me. I'm not that they're not competitive anyway, but I think the sub-tech is actually a huge win here. For 35 credits, so 5 credits more than a Hive Scum. This guy also has the armor, so you're paying 5 credits for the armor, but his stats are really, really good. It's not bad at all, really. They're not as good as a Hive Scummer, really, but they're not bad. They're movement 5, they're weapon skill 5, so they're not very good in close combat. But this Juve has got a ballistic skill of 4+, which is amazing for a Juve. Again, give these guys cheap las guns, and suddenly they're hitting stuff on 3s, and they're being quite annoying. And they're cheap as well, not too bad. So it's, 45 credits for one of these guys with a las gun? Not bad at all. Why not? They've got initiative of 4, wounds 1, attacks 1, strength toughness 3, and their leadership is 9, which is terrible, a call of 8, which is also terrible, willpower of 9, which is dreadful, and an intelligence of 7. But they fulfill a role, definitely, because they're the only fighter in your gang that's actually not ludicrously expensive, really. They also get agility as a primary when they level up as well, which is quite nice again. But yeah, these guys can have basic weapons, and the only basic weapon they can have is a las gun, but to be honest, it's all you really need, isn't it? Las guns on Juves is really powerful. It's pretty powerful because the pinning mechanic is just so strong in this game. Giving these guys las guns and just being reliable is awesome. So you could have a real, you could have a potentially fairly deep list if you go with cheap Juves. They get las pistols, las sub-carbines, they get a bunch of close combat weapons, but you're never taking any of them. They do not get access to the energy shield though, even though the picture above it in the book has one. That's basically it. So those are your fighter types for House Van Saar. So quite interesting, some cool stuff that we're going to talk about later. We're going to talk about the surfboards, we're going to talk about the the Archaeotek in a little bit more detail as well. I'm flagging a bit, to be honest, because I feel a bit fluey today, hence me wearing my jacket. But I'm going to get it done because if I'm feeling fluid, then I'm feeling like I'm connecting with the sickly, pale, pasty idiots of House Van Saar. So we're going to get on to the next bit now. All right, we are back. So we're going to be talking about exotic beasts now. So, like I said before, the pet for Van Saar is a arachnid, cyberarachnid, basically. So it's a spider with mechanical limbs and shit. This guy is really, really good because he's 75 credits, which is already 25 credits cheaper than a cybermastiff, and he's about 1,000,000 times better. And I'll read you the stats. He's got movement 6, so he's very fast. Weapon skill 4, it's not bad at all. Ballistic skill 5, but you're never going to use that. Strength toughness 2, so he's not as survivable. But he's got 1 wound, 2+ initiative, which is fantastic, 1 attack, and his mental stats are 7, 8, 8, 8. So stats wise, very fast and not too bad in close combat, pretty average. Now this guy has got clamber as a skill, so he comes with clamber. He comes with fearsome, and he also has fear inducing, which means that anyone 3 inches away from him, any friendly fighter 3 inches away from him, hopefully your leader, also has fearsome too. And fearsome, if you don't know what that does, means that you've got to take a willpower check to charge this fighter. It's quite cool. And he's also got horrific too, so he can never be captured because enemy gangs go, ooh, fucking spider, I don't like that shit, because I'm terrified of spiders too. I'd never want to capture one of these guys. But they get cunning as a primary if they ever do level up. Now, they're armed with a venomous bite and a web projector. So we've talked about web before. We're going to probably talk about web a lot more in the Delac episode. But web is just so incredibly powerful. It's probably the most powerful trait in the game. You don't get a save from web. It's a template weapon. If it wounds you, that's it. You count as seriously injured. And then you can be coup de grace pretty quickly if you don't recover or even bleed out. Now it has its lighter side, because if you are webbed and at the end of the game you just go out cold basically. So that's kind of, I guess, one nice thing about it. But web can be really abused, and these spiders have got it. They're also quite fast too, with movement 6 and a web projector. Now the web projector is only strength 2, so it's wounding most fighters on a 5. However, pinning as well just by itself is annoying. But when you do wound them, you're seriously injuring that fighter, no matter how many wounds they've got. Pretty annoying, and that's why the cyberarachnid, for me, is arguably the best pet in the game. Certainly the most annoying anyway. And of course, you can focus all your efforts on killing those guys, but then you're getting shot to shit by the rest of the Van Saar gang. So it's a difficult catch-22 situation there. In terms of your hangers-on and stuff, you have got a couple of Van Saar only hangers-on. We've got the Cogitator Core Servitor, which is 100 credits. Now, this guy has a few special rules. In any scenario in which the gang has a Cogitator Core Servitor, is the defender, the gang is able to exert tremendous control over the battlefield. At the end of any end phase, the gang may turn the lights on or off at will, so you can subject the entire battlefield to pitch black, on and off, whenever you like, without making any dice rolls. Very powerful for 100 credits, but it's only when you're defending. Hostile environment as well is another special rule he's got. So in any scenario in which the gang has a Cogitator Core Servitor, is the defender again. After both sides have deployed, but before the first round, the gang may place D3 booby traps, crack, frag, or melter anywhere on the battlefield. It's not within 6 inches of an enemy fighter. Again, very, very powerful. So you can do 2 of those things already. And then you've got security measures as well. So if you've got this and you're defending, any fighter belonging to the enemy gang must have an additional -1 modifier to intelligence check when making access terminals or loot caskets as well. So 100 credits is quite expensive, but it's very powerful if you are a defender. Something to get later on in the campaign. Obviously, you're not going to get it at the beginning. You're probably going to want to get a rogue doc to start with, to be honest, because your fighters are so hard to replace. But there you go. We've also got the Tech Merchant, which is available to any gang, but he's 80 credits to any gang. He's only 40 credits to Van Saar. And this guy has... it may reduce the rare illegal value of any item in the trading post or black market by 2. So that's pretty cool. All of a sudden, you've got your, I don't know, power sword that's rare 10 or something. All of a sudden it's rare 8. So it's easy to get hold of, stuff like that. They've also got friends in the trade as well. So this is a really good one. You've got, during every post-battle sequence, the cost of one item found in the trading post is reduced by D3 times 10 credits. Pretty nice, to a minimum of 20 credits though. So good for expensive equipment. He's armed with a mastercrafted las pistol or mastercrafted las subcarbine, but again, he's not going to be playing in the games much. There you go. You've also got the data scrivener, who's only 20 credits here. All he does is he's got something called data hacked. Data scrivener, it's an intelligence check. Whilst the data scrivener is present upon the battlefield, you may roll an additional d6 and discard the lowest if you have to make intelligence checks, which is quite cool. But for 20 credits, it's just a bit of a, I wouldn't take it myself personally. You've also got access to ammo jacks, rogue docks, and sloppers and stuff as well. What's the other one? Sloppers and dome runners, of course, too. So that's that. We're going to get into the next bit now. So the next thing we're talking about is the brutes available to House Van Saar. Of course, each house in the game has its own unique brute. Van Saar's brute is one of extreme power. It's very, very, very good. It's called the Archaeotek servo suit. It's 240 credits, and it's a bit of a beast. Now its stats are movement 5, weapon skill 4, and ballistic skill 4. They're not amazingly good at shooting in close combat, but average. It's also got strength 5, toughness 4, 3 wounds, initiative of 4, and 4 attacks. Leadership 5, cool 5, which is excellent, so it doesn't run away very easily. A willpower of 8 and an intelligence of 6. Now, it's basically it's armed with a twin-linked heavy las carbine and 4 servo arms. So it's got a lot of attacks in close combat. It's very powerful and it's very good at shooting. Twin-linked means that you don't run out of ammo as easily, basically. And we're going to go through that when we talk about the equipment. But it's equipped with light carapace armor as well. So you've got a lot of bang for your buck there. Actually, when you look at it for 240 credits, you can of course replace its mechanical limbs with a rad gun, which reduces its attacks characteristic. Personally, I wouldn't do that. 60 credits to do that. A plasma gun, 60 credits again. And you can give it heavy carapace armor as well, plus 20 credits. But remember, heavy carapace, although it does give you a better save, it does reduce your initiative and your movement when you're charging too. So there you go. In terms of the twin-linked rule, when a fighter makes a ranged attack with this weapon, they may re-roll any number of the ammo dice rolled. However, they must accept the result of the re-roll, even if it's worse. Really, really good if you want to absolutely guarantee getting 6 shots off, etc., or however many dice you roll with this thing. You also got the Van Saar protective gear. So it's got they're immune to effects of rad, basically, so rad phage throughout the gang, I think. So they will not suffer the additional flesh wound with rad phage. And it's got a superior weapons array. So this is another special rule here. So rather than making a single shoot basic action during each turn, the fighter may make 2 shoot simple actions per turn, effectively giving it fast shot, which is kind of gross. Each action may be made with a different weapon, and each action may target a different enemy fighter. So it's also got, not only has it got fast shot, it's also got gunfighter, essentially with some heavy weapons that are actually strength 4, I believe. It's got shooting as its primary skill axis as well, so as you can see, a very powerful brute. Unfortunately, Forge World did a terrible, terrible job at sculpting the Archaeotek, and I've seen quite a few people in the Necromunda community do much better jobs of kit bashing it themselves. So shout out to Underhiver, Chris Idden out there, of course, from Some City Radio. Yours is fantastic. I think a lot of people have copied your ideas there throughout, to be honest. So well done on that, but however, I will never forgive you for playing Van Saar. So that's really that. You've got your Ambot and your what's it called? Not Goliath. What am I talking about? Ogren Servitor as well, if you really want to have one of those, but it doesn't really suit Van Saar. Right, we're going to move on to the next thing now. Alright, so moving on to the tech skills now. Now these are the 6 specific skills for Van Saar here. Like I said, they're probably the weakest of the bunch out of all the house gangs, I would say. They're not great. So we're going to go through them quickly. Cold and calculating, number 1 here. Once per round when making a cool or willpower check, this fighter may make the check against their intelligence characteristic instead. I mean, it's okay, it's situational, but generally speaking, your intelligence isn't that much higher than your cool, but it is higher than your willpower generally, so it can be good against psychers and stuff, but again, it's quite situational, really. Gadgeteer being your next one. If this fighter is in the starting crew prior to the first turn, they may modify the weapon traits of any weapon they carry that has the plentiful trait. If they do so, until the end of the battle, the weapon loses the plentiful trait and gains one of the following: knockback, pulverize, rending, or shock. Alternatively, a plentiful weapon with the rapid fire trait can add 1 to the rapid fire dice, which is pretty cool. yeah, there's a lot to think about with that one. It's quite cool though. It's nice and fluffy, but it's not gonna break the world, because there aren't that many plentiful weapons that are actually great, I suppose. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The next one is mental mastery. So this fighter cannot become subject to the insane condition. Pretty good when you've got such low willpower and, like I said, weird powers and stuff. If this fighter is target of a weird power and is standing inactive or prone and pinned, they may attempt to disrupt the power as if they were a psycho. So that one's actually pretty good now. Again, this book came out before Book of the Outcast, so I'm now looking at these skills slightly differently because of the weird powers and stuff that are available in the game. But that actually is not so bad, but it's still nowhere near as good as any of the shooting skills. So there you go. The next one is Photonic Engineer. So this fighter may apply a +1 modifier to the strength characteristic of all las weapons used by them. Doing so, however, causes the weapon to gain unstable. In addition, this fighter may re-roll failed ammo checks with las weaponry, provided the weapon does not have the unstable trait. So there you go. Not bad, but you may as well just pay 20 creds or whatever for a hot shot pack. It's much better. Rad Phaged, so this is like the opposite of Rad Phage. Instead of taking a flesh wound, I think you get one back. On a 4+, you do not suffer a flesh wound, but again, highly situational. No one other than House Van Saar really has rad weapons anyway, so unless you're playing lots of mirror matches, that's not going to come up at all. And the last one is Weaponsmith. So any weapons this fighter is equipped with lose the scarce trait if it has it. Any weapons this fighter is equipped with will gain the plentiful trait if it does not have the scarce trait. That's actually really good, particularly for plasma guns that are scarce, and melter guns or whatever if they're scarce too. But that does actually make your weapons much more reliable there. Not bad at all, to be honest. So the next thing is Cybertechnica. We're going to be talking about Cybertechnica. This is the unique mechanic for House Van Saar, similar to your gene smithing or your chem alchemy, like I said with Escher. But there's quite a lot to talk about here. Now, you've got different types of it. There are 3 different types. You've got alpha, gamma, and omega. For cranial, and you've also then got different areas of the body that you can get as well. So for cranial, obviously that's the head. Your 30 credits cost for your alpha. And then it's 40 credits for gamma and 75 credits for omega as well. And of course, alpha is the lowest form, and then omega is the highest. So if you just want alpha cranial Cybertechnica, this fighter is immune to the insane condition. Not bad, but it's 30 credits to do that. If you want the next level up, gamma, then this fighter is immune to both insane and intoxicated. For 10 credits extra, you're never really going to be intoxicated very much. And for 75 credits for the last and final top level, this fighter is immune to the insane and intoxicated. In addition, the fighter cannot become broken. That's pretty good for 75 credits. It's quite expensive, but it's quite cool. Not becoming broken. You've then got Ocular Cybernetica, so this Cybertechnica, I keep saying that. This is for your eyes, of course. So for Alpha, the lowest level, you've got 50 credits. This fighter is considered to always be equipped with an infrasight, the benefits of which are applied to any ranged weapon they carry. So it's like an infrasight, but you can use it on all of your weapons. So really cool. And it's 50 credits to do that, so that's pretty great, especially if you have several powerful weapons. For the next level, Gamma, this is 85 credits, and this fighter is considered to always be equipped with both an infrasight and a monosight, the benefits of which appear to apply to any ranged weapon they carry. Again, pretty cool, you've got both sights there, so very accurate. And the Omega level is 105 credits. You get both of those things again. And you also have photo goggles as well, so you can see in pitch black too. Really nice. There you go. The next one is Syndextrous. So this is the hands and the arms, I believe. And for alpha level, for 50 credits, you've got this fighter ignores the effects of the disarm trait. For 40 credits, that's a complete rip-off, it's terrible. However, the next one, 75 credits, you ignore disarm and you do not suffer a -1 to hit modifier when making close combat attacks if you have to turn to face. So you don't have a turn to face rule, basically. You can hit people behind you. You then got Omega, which is 125 credits. The same 2 things, so immune to disarm, immune to turn to face. And you also get, in addition, this fighter's attacks cannot be parried. So that's quite cool, but 125 credits for it, I mean, no thanks. The next one is Motive. So this is leg, back and foot augmetics, apparently. For Alpha, 35 credits. You get, this fighter ignores any negative movement modifiers caused by moving through difficult terrain. This one's actually quite good. Gamma for 65 credits, same again, but you also add 2 to your movement when moving vertically. For example, when climbing up a ladder or any other vertical surface. So you actually move faster up stuff than you do on the flat, which is really, really cool. I like that one a lot. And quite a lot of use for that one, I think, if you really want to add some extra maneuverability to your Van Saar shooty guys. And finally, you've got Omega for 100 credits as well. This fighter ignores any negative movement, la-di-da-di-da, 2 inches up as well. And in addition, this fighter may re-roll failed initiative checks to see if they fall when they go standing to prone on the edge of a platform. Pretty cool. I really like that, but it is 100 credits for that. However, you can get that for half price on your Super Champion, so not too bad at all. You've then got Torsonic, so this is bone and spinal, to make you a bit tougher, a bit stronger. I've actually used these ones before. For Alpha, you've got unarmed attacks do more damage, so unarmed attacks have a damage characteristic of 3 instead of 1. Pretty cool. I used this on my Outcast gang before we actually realised that we couldn't use these mechanics, but it was quite fun. 3 damage open-handed slap there. You then got Gamma, so that's 75 credits. Same again, but in addition, this fighter may apply a +2 modifier to their strength characteristic when resolving hits made by the weapon that has either the melee or versatile trait. Kind of conflicts with the first one, really, having unarmed attacks being so attractive. And then you have Omega, 150 credits there. And this one, an unarmed, same thing again for both of those. And finally, any weapon this fighter is equipped with is considered to have suspensors fitted to it. So pretty cool. You can use that as a sort of another way of getting a suspensor for your heavy weapon as well, but 150 credits though. It's a lot. So the last one in the Cybertechnica realm is Vascular. So this replaces key organs within the fighter's body, usually the heart and lungs, granting them the resistance to the perils of the underhive. But there's also regenerative abilities as well. So for Alpha, for 40 credits, you get +1 modifier to your toughness for the purpose of the number of flesh wounds you can take before going out of action. That's pretty cool for 40 credits, actually. I like that one. You don't get higher toughness, but you can take more flesh wounds, sustain more flesh wounds. For Gamma, you get the same thing again, but in addition, this fighter may reroll any toughness check they're required to make, which is fantastic against, against toxin and stuff like that or whatever. You then got Omega as well, which is 130 credits. Does the same thing, but finally, in the end phase of each round, this fighter may discard a flesh wound they've suffered. So for free, though, you don't have to roll any dice for that, so that's pretty cool, but it is 130 credits again as well. So that is your Cybertechnica there. We're then going to move on and talk about some of the weapons before I fall asleep. Okay, on to the last bit now. We're here to talk about the weapons for House Van Saar here. I'm feeling a bit rubbish today, to be honest. I might go back to bed after this one, but I'm going to get it done because I'm dedicated to the cause. So, house-specific Van Saar weaponry here. As we get into it, we've got, of course, las guns. You know what they do. But las sub-carbines, or las carbines as they're called, the big ones anyway, are exactly the same as an auto gun, pretty much, but they've got a 10-inch short range instead of 8 or whatever it is. So pretty cool, but they've also got plentiful as well, which makes them so much better, just being able to reload a lot easier. But they're rapid fire 1, strength 3, no AP, and the same ammo as well. You've got your suppression laser here, which has got the broad burst and short burst, like I mentioned. It's actually exactly the same as your normal shotgun for both of those. However, it's plentiful on the scatter shot and plentiful on the solid as well, which is just fantastic, makes them really, really good. But they're 40 credits as opposed to 30, so you're paying 10 credits for plentiful, which I think is worth it. You've then got, those are your basic weapons actually. Other than that, for your pistols, you've got the same again basically. So you've got your las sub-carbine, which is the auto pistol sort of variant of a las weapon. You've got your web projector as well. Like I mentioned, this is on the Spider, this is strength 2. Like I mentioned, this is strength 2. For the Spider, so it doesn't wound that easily, but when it does, it's really fucking annoying on a 75 credits thing, because web pistols on their own are 90 credits, aren't they? So very, very nice indeed. That's basically it. Of course, you've got your las plas combi weapons, which are a las pistol with a plasma gun, and you've also got your las pistol melter gun combi weapon as well, which is pretty cool. And those are both very, very legit for House Van Saar. In terms of your sort of unique weapons, in terms of the special weapons category, we've got the rad gun. The rad gun is a template weapon like a flamer. It's strength 2, it's -2 AP though, so that's pretty tasty if it does wound you. It's only 1 damage, it's 4+ ammo, and it's got rad phage, which basically on the 4+, you lose a flesh wound. So in addition to what you're already being damaged by. So pretty good. You then got the rad beamer, which is for the Archaeotek. This is his special weapon, I suppose. Now you've got 2 beams here, a focused beam and a dispersed beam. 12 and 24 inches for both of them, for short range and long range. On the focus beam, you've got +2 to hit at short range. No negatives or positives for any of the other things though. So the focus beam is strength 3, -2 AP, rad phage, and 1 damage and 5+ ammo. So pretty nice, but like a strength 3 version of the rad gun in a lot of ways, but you actually do have to hit though, it's not a template. And then you've got your dispersed beam as well, which is strength 2, -2 AP, rapid fire rad phage. So that's really closer to the rad gun, except it's got rapid fire as well. So pretty cool, that gun, I actually quite like it. But 5+ ammo for both of those things, at least it's not scarce. You can make it plentiful with your Cybertechnica though, which is cool. Or I think there's a skill that did that, wasn't there? You've then got your las cannons, multi-melters, plasma cannons, and rad cannons. So the rad cannon is 16 to 32 inch range. We've got -1 at long range though, so anything above 16 is -1 to hit, which is kind of annoying. It's strength 2 again, it's -2 AP, it's only 1 damage, it's 4+ ammo though, and it's a 5-inch blast with rad phage, so pretty annoying. Anything that you catch under it can be flesh wounded quite easily, so that's quite cool. And then of course you've got your twin-linked heavy las sub-carbine, which is on your brute there. And this is quite nasty. It's 15 to 30 range with +1 to hit at 15 inches. Strength 4, no AP, damage 1, 4+ ammo, plentiful, rapid fire 3, and twin-linked. So that is disgusting. You can re-roll all those dice to be 9 if you get lucky. But yeah, 9 hits with strength 4. Ugh, nasty. In terms of your close combat weapons, the only one that's actually worth mentioning here is the Histrar pattern energy shield. Now this is the only one unique to House Van Saar anyway. It's the strength of the user. It's got 1 damage, and it's got knockback and the shield trait as well. So we'll talk about the shield trait in a minute. But that's basically that for the... oh no, sorry, you've got the what's it called? Where is it? The venomous bite for the spider, which is just a toxin attack for the spider there. No negatives or anything for that one. And you've got your Arachne Rig servo suit here as well, which has strength +1. Oh, sorry, +1 to hit at a versatile range of 3, which is really, really tasty. So again, making that Arachne Rig really, really nasty indeed. And it's just melee, it doesn't have any other traits other than versatile, but yeah, versatile 3 inches is incredibly sexy there indeed. And that, I think, is that for your Van Saar equipment there. Moving on, we've got you know, grenades, booby traps, things like that, which are pretty standard. And getting into the equipment now, of course we want to talk about grav cutters are the main thing, don't we? So we'll skip straight forwards to the grav cutter. So the grav cutter increases your movement by 2. So movement 7 base for those prospects. All of a sudden they get movement 7, which is pretty good. It means you can move 14 inches. Very, very nice indeed. And you can ignore all terrain. So you can move freely between levels without restriction, can never fall, and may move over enemy fighters ignoring the 1-inch rule. However, you can't end base to base with them basically. When a fighter is equipped with a grav cutter is hit by a ranged attack, they do not become pinned, so they've basically got auto nerves of steel there, which is disgusting, unless of course they're seriously injured, in which case they do become pinned. But there you go. It's the other thing that they get is because they're quite a large target, is they permanently have an infrasight on them pretty much. So if you're in hard cover, you're actually in soft. If you're in soft cover, you're out in the open. So that's something that's good though. Now, should a fighter equipped with a grav cutter ever become prone for any other reason due to being seriously injured, la-di-da-di, then they are unable to make a stand-up basic action. Hang on, excuse me. Stand-up is a double, basically. So if you do go seriously injured and then you recover, it's a double to stand up, which is quite interesting. So you've got to get back on your grav cutter. You can also do flyby attacks as well. It's a basic action to do this. This fighter may move a distance up to their movement characteristic, exactly as if they were making a move. However, if during the course of this movement the fighter passes over any enemy fighters, nominate one of those fighters to be the target of a single attack, representing this fighter attempting to strike them with a glancing blow. Make a single hit roll by making a weapon skill attack as normal, which is only 5 up, it's not great. But it's strength 4 and damage 1, So it's not too bad. And it's also got concussion and knockback, so you can knock people off stuff with that. It's quite cool. But that is the grav cutter. And I think that's pretty much it for Van Saar. We're going to come back and just give it a summary, I think, now. So in summary, that is Van Saar in a nutshell. A bunch of Dutch dudes that are all kind of weak and pasty. If you like the sound of that, and you like the sound of shooting the hell out of people, then this is the gang for you. I used to really enjoy them. I do think the models are actually some of the best models in the Necromunda line. I really love them, particularly the sort of spider masks that they come with, but they've definitely got that sort of Spec Ops feel about them. But I don't think I'm quite as in love with the lore as I am with some of the other houses, but that's up to you. You know, everybody's got their favourite gang in this, and mine's obviously Cawdor. So there you go. But I'm feeling dreadful. I'm actually feeling very fluey now throughout the process of recording this video, so I'm actually going to go to bed. But I hope you enjoyed that. Any comments, please put them in down below. And yeah, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my Patreon as well. I'm nearly at 1,000 followers, or 1,000 subscribers, which is fantastic. I can't quite believe that, but when I get there, I'll be giving you guys a huge thank you anyway. So yeah, but thanks for now. Thanks for tuning in, and peace out.